Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Into the Shadewoods, a game that starts on time every week, 27 minutes ago. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. Yep.
Potentially bad. We'll see how.
Great. Not everyone's doing well because we are down one player permanently until the end of this game, which is not that long away. But who would like to do a recap? And actually, I'm not even going to offer it. Maddie, could you do a recap for Chris, who was not here last session?
I can try. I don't have notes the last hour of the game.
Yeah.
Do my best.
Okay,
Um,
well, that's still the best chance. That's the
Great.
best chance for a good recap.
Okay. So, previously, we had been captured, right, by the creepy people in the building and then thrown into jail cells. Barman wakes up after being unconscious for a while in some sort of cage with no wand on him, and he hears people outside talking about Nisakana. Eventually makes his way out of the cage.
Nope.
My notes weren't
I'll
good
do the
last
recap.
time.
Don't worry,
Yeah,
I'll do the recap.
I don't have good notes. My headache was bad.
All right. So last we left off, there were three converging points of the party. Buttleman had been captured and was in a cage with all of his stuff, but gagged and bound, and it was dark. Nisakana and Frankie, who had just revived, were in the pit. The pit cage that the Fae have, having been told, hey, do this job. Frankie tried to escape and did a very good job of it, minus rolling quite badly on stealth. While Corvus and Mothra were arriving with Lorena. Where's my book for this? With Lorena the next morning. Well, the same morning. Ultimately, Lorena spoke to the Fae and came down the side of, I agree, ultimately, with what they are doing. And in an attempt to help you all be less in danger, give herself up as hostage, and then kept Mothra behind because she was enjoying the conversation she was having with Mothra. There was a long conversation in which everybody behaved perfectly and fine, and there was no long-lasting repercussions had before you all, except for Mothra, headed off towards Rowan's Cradle, where Frankie began to feel a compulsion to do the task set to them, which was to do the task set to all of you, which was to defile the temple and destroy the ruins. Frankie seemed to be being compelled to the rest of the party, and Corvus entangled Frankie, not allowing them to move closer and stopping them from doing their task, as Frankie began to feel the revenant magic that was keeping him alive dissipate. Quickly, Dogman and Corvus, I think, began to scratch away the enchantments successfully until the last enchantment was broken and Bartleman took the energy into his wand. Your normal wand, right? Your core wand? Or just a spare wand? You're muted, so...
Sorry, I think I've done a spare one.
Yeah, just a spare one. Just putting into your core wand would have been too big a risk, I think. Oh yeah, it was spare wand, or you were going to put it into the giant finger thing. At the moment that happened, Frankie, who had been singing like in a way that's really tragic, kind of like Merlin in Kingsman 2, the singing cuts immediately to silence as Buttleman's wand pulses with a Doesn't really have. It's not a temperature to it, but there is like a faint scent of like pine. And that's where we will pick up. Chris, we're probably not going to flash back to you and Lorena having conversations that reveal things about druids and stuff. We might flash back to it a little bit later.
Okay.
And if you have to make a roll on something and you think it could be something that you talk to her about, you let me know and we'll flash back then, and you can get the extra information and probably advantage on rolls and stuff. Because you've been talking to her for like an evening and now a couple of hours by the time they get back.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
Isakana, Corvus, and Bartleman, you hear the singing. It's not a fade away kind of stop. It's not a strangled breath, like running out kind of stop. It's a sharp, swift cut of the sound. And all you can hear for the next moment or two is the slowly fading final echo of Frankie's voice. As you look back, Frankie's still standing because it's still entangled.
Am
Uh,
I misremembering, or did you
the
describe? I thought that he basically looked like he got Thanos snapped last time.
I don't. If I did say that, it's going to happen in a moment.
Okay.
But it was last time I did kind of go how it was going to go, and it's a better moment if for you all if you see what is about to happen.
Okay. Well, yeah,
when you
Corvus will
turn
see it
back,
because he had been talking to him.
I think you were. Who was scratching out the rooms?
Mainly Bartlett, I think. But
I thought Corpse was as well.
I think Frankie got a couple.
Okay.
It kind of sounded like everyone else was just standing around.
Yeah, Frankie threw a dagger and hit one.
Yeah,
of all
that's
of
what it
them.
is.
Rutherman actually did very
Yeah.
well then to get all of them. I thought two people were doing it. In that case, Corvus, you watch as Frankie, the sound cuts completely, and the altered version of Frankie that you have come to know is replaced with a decayed corpse. It still stands as the entangled vines hold the leg bones up, but everything else slowly begins to tumble. The connective parts that make people whole people are gone. And as each part tumbles away, it begins to fade from vision. And Bartle, you turn to see like the second half of this kind of happening. And it's kind of you see however much you would like to see of it because I don't know where you're looking.
Corvus is
There's
standing very still, and where he had been holding, like maintaining his focus on entangle spell, moving his fingers about to like manage the vines. He just brings hands apart, and the vines dissipate. And he's just standing there with his head tilted slightly to the side.
there's a moment where your head tilt, the camera like moves from looking at it to from behind it, and we see Frankie's head tilt and then slide off, and then the skull evaporates into arcane necrotic mist.
Corvus reaches out, but it's a solid second too late.
Can I, Bartleman, kind of seeing what's happening, does he think this is just because, like, Frankie's Revenant job is done? Or
Make a you can make an Arcana check.
um
It is certainly true that Frankie's Revenant, the magic that makes Frankie Revenant, has gone.
right.
I think with an 18, you're unsure whether that means that Frankie completed the task,
They failed.
but or if whoever was powering the Revenant thing either couldn't or chose to not be anymore. Make me a history check. Anyone can make me. Well, if Bugman tells everybody that, anyone can make a history check. You're in the stories. Revenants that succeed, they don't go so abruptly. There's like moments of closure at the end of Revenant's life in the stories.
Is there anything different about the cave now that I guess I've taken all the magic?
No, it smells much more of that pine smell that kind of hit your nostril as the wand took the magic, but the cave itself remains pretty similar. They're like latent little arcane entities and stuff. With an 18, you can kind of feel they're not there anymore, but that makes sense because they're in your wand now.
Bartleman, is it done?
Transfer the magic into the wall. Trust. I don't really understand what's happened here.
Any of you can make another Arcana check if you like. Thinking more about the actual mechanics of what you have done.
He's kind of turned around at this point, hearing this noise and stuff.
Miss Arcana just absolutely crushed it.
No.
Just a natural 20. Still doesn't know as much as Parliament.
Yep.
I don't think Corvus is capable of it. I think he is still standing exactly where he was, looking at that empty spot in the ground, and I don't think he can make that check.
Sure. Yeah, it's hard to know what's happened here, Parliament. It's a lot of the time when you destroy runes, it will remove the magic. But sometimes the runes are just holding magic, and if they transfer that wand, then your wand is just holding the exact same magic, and nothing has changed. And you don't know where this falls on the spectrum of that.
Can I examine the wands then and try to look at my handiwork and see what?
Sure. It's very. Most wands will change to kind of take on something of the nature of their magic. This one is very, very similar to how it was before. Do you have a wand tool kit proficiency or something like that, or does it just run off Arcana?
I just took Woodcarver's tools in Arcana.
Sure, roll Woodcarver's tools. with intelligence.
Yeah.
Um,
39.
It's hollow now, which is unusual. You'd have to probably detect magic or identify to learn more. Well, not identify, because I'm pretty sure that I said don't take identify.
Oh.
And you also rolled Arcana twice. But detect magic would help.
Yeah, I'll cast it. I have to ritual. So.
Me. Just making sure I get the school right, because I know that if I guess the school, it will be wrong.
Fair.
So it's certainly an abjuration, something. And when you cast detect magic, you can see that the magic has been transferred to your wand. So when you took the magic from the runes, the exact spell continues, or the exact magical effect continues, but now your wand is the keeper of that effect. And actually, with detect magic, even though the magic was very weak, in the air, the wand itself is quite powerful. Like, whatever it is doing is very powerful magic. It's just not doing it in a. It's very subtle. It's not a fireball to the face type thing. It's more like a closer to something like a foresight, where you're not being hit in the face with how powerful the magic is, but it's something very like subtle and powerful. Foresight is an example just of a spell that is not visually understandable. It doesn't have anything to do with foresight as a spell. I was thinking of a high level spell that's subtle.
But I can't like cast. There's no like spell to cast per se.
No, there's and I think you, because of the nature of your like understanding of wands, you would know just by touching it that there's no magic to let out. There's no outward casting to do. It's I'm trying to think of something that would be similar. It would be quite like ascending stone or something like. Nope, that's terrible. That's not what it's like. It would be like a key where you don't use it as a spell that you cast, but if you take a magic object to a place, something in that place resonate with it. It's far more passive than something that you can cast a spell from. You could potentially imbue another thing onto it, and maybe then you could cast spells from it, but it wouldn't be doing anything with this magic. So that takes 10 minutes. 1 minute, 10 minutes, however long a ritual takes.
Yep.
Nisakana, what are you doing in that 10-minute time span?
I think Nisakana has seen this disintegration of Frankie and will just give a brief, formal, not bow, but like acknowledgement of passing, I guess. With a stance and an emotion with her glaive, and then we'll continue to keep just looking out for anything coming up on us. because even though we just watched our revenant friend turn into dust, she's still very apprehensive of the whole area.
Makes sense.
And she's not good at magic.
Make me a perception check.
Only a
You
10.
don't notice anything in the 10-minute time frame that you are watching. Corvus, what are you doing that 10 minutes?
I think for the majority of the first several minutes of that, he is just still staring. Eventually, he probably settles from like that, just absolutely frozen, still sort of reaching out motion to kind of sliding to his knees. He is going to check one of his many little pouches and pockets for the lock of hair he cut to see if that had also just vanished. Every bit of him is gone.
The lock of hair. The lock of hair has vanished.
Yeah, of course, sits there with that pouch, holding it in his hand for a little while. I think once that the motions of like ritual coming to a close happen, he shifts a little and looks to Bartleman from where he's knelt. Clears his throat. Well, if we've done what they've asked of us, what next?
Um, not, I'm not entirely sure this is what they want to say, but suppose we move on. Could go back. I need to speak with. Forgetting his name now. Morden Intense Oddly.
Meltenser.
Meltenser, that's what it is. Meltenser.
Also, my author is there.
Oh yes, we need to go. We need to go get more off. I suppose we were to. Seem to be anything that we could do. Yeah. Could attempt to. Spell the wand,
Don't
maybe,
think-
but I'm not sure.
Perhaps it would be wiser to not do that right next to where you gathered the magic from.
Magic seems to have been protecting, or maybe not protecting, but it was a barrier. Which makes sense, I suppose, if we assume that it was holding back or holding in the deal was made that also caused the T-Fates to be created on the play. But, just shakes his head.
I mean, ultimately, in a very literal sense, you did do what they asked.
Yeah.
So, right, is there anything else anybody wants to do before you head back?
I do want to, like, I guess, examine, like, So the place where Lucy died had like an echo, right? Like it was definitely a desecrated place, and that was something that you could feel after that death pretty much immediately. Corvus wants to examine, like, first his instinct is just to check the area where Frankie died, but as he kind of like looks up and settles and turns around, he wants to look at the whole area, like what vibes, what spiritual vibes are being done here, more in like a witchy spiritual sense than a religious spiritual sense.
What do you want to roll?
I would be happy to roll Arcana, Insight, Nature, I guess
You can roll
religion from.
Arcana.
Okay. What
You can't tell
Forrest got
anything.
more power?
You can't tell anything. Sadly.
Okay. I can't
Uh,
even see the roll, so
It was a 1, a natural 1.
beautiful.
I will say that it doesn't have an immediate desecrated vibe like Lucy's did. That Lucy's had an immediate, like, obvious something very bad had happened. This does not have that feel. It still feels quite peaceful and respectful as a like altar to a hero. The magic being gone hasn't changed that. Anything else? I will take that as a no. As you head out and head back, the breeze coming off the mountain remains very Wasville. It doesn't take you long to get back. It's about 20 minutes. You can stop in to see Eltensa before hitting the Tiefling camp, if you would like.
Yeah, I want to go ask him what he thinks about this plot.
Isn't this the guy?
The child
Isn't this?
With the like
with the dwarf
level
coming in
20
that you
wizard
sized up?
Oh,
that is also a child.
not the person in the house.
No, that
Okay.
was
Never mind.
Terra.
I will withhold my argument against it. That's fine.
Well, you're going to have to talk to Terra to get to Mothra back. So, yeah, you head to the tent. You pull a little doorbell drawstring thing that I somehow remember that they had. And the dwarf manservant answers and says, "Oh, I thought you had been killed in the skirmish the other night."
Not
Last
not exactly.
He like weirdly chuckles at that. Says, "Well, would you like to have some wine with the master?"
Yes, I think I absolutely.
Oh, and an extra guest.
Yes, just 3 of us.
I should warn you, and he says directly to Corvus. My master likes, well, the master likes games. I would not suggest taking him up on a game, particularly a game that he claims to be of chance.
Corvus just
And he lets you.
yeah, Corvus just like stares at this guy.
Corvus, you go in and you see sitting at it's like a floating disc, but it's at maybe knee height, and he's cross-legged sitting under it, and it's kind of invisible. But he's got a dragon chessboard out, and he is have any of you played dragon chess?
Yes.
He's using pieces that you've never seen before. like there's a piece that's an airship. Not that Bartleman knows what an airship is, but like there's none of the pieces are normal, and they're all kind of floating
Is it like
above the chessboard.
Is it like not normal? Like, oh, this is like a weird chess set, or is it not normal? Like, I don't know what piece that could be like in the positioning.
Yeah, so like it's a world where you look at a chessboard and you see two things that could only be bishops, but they're both on round squares, which can never happen.
Right.
Like it's whatever he's doing is playing a variation of a game that you don't understand. And as he looks up and says, "Oh, Bartleman, the Wonder Master, you've come to drink again, and you brought your bodyguard and a." He kind of looks at you and says, "A wet raven."
I'm gonna pull the wand out of my sleeve.
Presumably not in a threatening.
Yeah, I
zone.
just go. No, I just
yeah.
I just hold it like straight up, like that should come with
Johan and Lando shoot at each other.
with something.
Oh, a wand?
Yes.
He reaches out and takes it. I have to fix my boundary being weird.
Corvus settled into a wet raven roost in the corner.
Is the Nice kind of go stand by wherever the dwarf companion is?
Oh, you typically stand across the room staring at him, but
Or
yeah,
standing standing
he's
across the
getting
room, yeah.
drinks right now.
Yeah.
He says, okay, it's a wand. You see his eyes flicker, and he says, abjuration. Strange, very misleading, the wand. It looks like it's weak, but it's doing something particularly impressive. Where did you come upon it?
Suppose in a certain sense I made it. I took the magic from Lord's cradle and placed it into the sword.
Oh. Oh. Interesting. He like looks at it for a second, thinks, scratches his head and says, so you took the magic into the wand and therefore did not reveal what the magic. He holds out his hand for you to for the wand. Aha, you fell into the trap. No. He
I mean,
he looks at it for a bit and says,
presumably he could kill
yeah,
me
he could
without
tell if he wanted to. He says, well, it's impossible to know for sure. Because it's not something that we can activate and discover. I feel, and this is pure, like my gut tells me that if I had to guess what this was doing, it would be some kind of binding. It's binding something somewhere, and now you're carrying that binding with you. So if for example, I put my dwarf into a bag of holding and I tied it up. That bag of holding travels with me because I am the one holding it. But if I tie my dwarf to a tree, it doesn't matter how far I go. So either whatever's bound remains where it was, or it remains equidistant to where it was to you now. Does that make sense?
whatever was bound may be forced to follow.
It's more like you are carrying a bird cage the same length of distance away from the altar, because that is how far the cage must always be. It's not following you. It can't move from where it was bound. And if that binding was to a particular place, it's in that place. And if it was to the magic, then now it's that place distance away from you, or the one.
Out of game, does anybody understand that?
Out of game,
understand what he's-
out of game, it's either in. If it's in out of game, it's either left where it was to begin with, and the
Right.
magic just continues to persist in your one,
The
or
key analogy.
it is closer to you than. It's like if you're dragging something that's on a 50-foot rope behind you.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you hand the rope to somebody else; it's still 50 feet behind you. Is what he's trying to say. But he's also a slightly insane person, so like he's not saying it very well either.
Right.
And there's no way for him to know which one that is.
Okay. So yes, it's either being forced to follow me, quote unquote, or is locked wherever it was. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and he got caught up on the semantics of follow you when.
Yeah, when he said no, that's when I got confused. So I
But
was
he's
like,
an insane person.
what?
Importantly, he is insane.
Okay, yes, I think I understand what you were saying.
Would you like some wine?
What would that mean? Would that mean that
Oh.
the pardon?
Come sit.
Corvus pauses to
Be
like,
like-
gesture for Bartman to
Mm.
agree to wine, but he does not accept it.
Sure, you get some wine. It's very nice. It's probably the nicest wine Bartleman's ever had. But yeah, he gestures to Corvus to sit, and
Cor-
at the table.
Corvus says, "Would that mean that, given that the tieflings had wanted that magic discharged, would that mean that the duty has not yet been performed? The magic is in the wand."
If the tieflings wanted the magic discharged, the magic has been discharged. The magic exists
Contained.
just in a different vessel. So, to answer your question, no, the magic. You have not completed what the tieflings asked if they asked you to discharge the magic. So,
They
what
asked
was your
us-
name?
Oh, sorry, you had it quite right to begin with, Corvus.
He, despite being endlessly intelligent, does not connect the two things and goes, "Oh, okay. I'm Eltensa. I met your two companions. Well, your wizard and his bodyguard. Sorry, continue. I prefer to know the names of the people I'm dispensing wisdom to."
Corvus like nods shallowly, does shoot a look over his shoulder over at Nithakata with like both brows like into his full hairline at the phrase bodyguard.
Looks at you like, huh?
Technically, we were charged with disrupting the runes, I suppose. Bartleman, was that the original request? Since the tieflings themselves could not access the stone?
I understand. They didn't fully explain it, ever, so.
Might not occur to them we could capture the magic on its way out. Can I, like, as like a sort of like insight thing here, if somebody was being asked to break runes on a stone,
Yeah.
like, would the assumption be to break the magic as well?
You don't need to make an insight check. I think all of you know that you have not completed the spirit of what they asked you to do.
Yes. Only
And
the
how
letter.
much you prefer to be very very letter of the. Well, actually, technically, you asked this, and how much they can tell. But Corvus, I think you specifically know that Lorena will be able to tell.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely, you don't need to make an insight check to know that you haven't done the thing that they realistically wanted you to do.
I also don't think we were specifically told are the ruins. We were told to disrupt the grave.
Yeah. I think they said something specifically about the magic that's there, but although they don't know that much about what you were going into. So, but yeah, you could reasonably go and say to them, well, we did disrupt the grave, and we scratched up the runes, and that would be true, but you all know that that's not what they necessarily were asking.
And Frankie died.
Also, what are they going to do to Lorena? Nothing. Yeah, and Frankie died. They're like, that's realistically only of interest to you guys. To the greater world, nobody cared about that. But it's not really a leverage that you have. Although Lorena will care. Altensa looks into some. But yes, I would be curious to know what this one is actually doing. It's all speculation, of course. It's impossible to know for sure.
Bartleman mentioned you, but he did not. We haven't exactly had time for a clear rundown of everything that has happened. And did he introduce himself as Eltenser?
Yeah, you can make a history check. He's clearly a wizard.
Okay.
And he's a wizard that Bartleman has been slightly deferential to.
Yeah. And he's a wizard that looks like an absolute child, right?
Yeah, he looks like he's 10. He's also drinking wine from a goblet.
Yeah, which is enough for Corvus to be something is weird here.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about Pilgrim's Rest or the magic contained therein?
He cocks his head at you, not dissimilar to how you do it, but far less lucid in the way that he's looking at you. And he says, in Pilgrim's Rest, there's not really any particular magic here. Hang on, I will roll for him. All my dice are used for portent. Stupid portent. Which I know what they are anyway. That's fine. He says there's no real magic here, and then it takes him about a split, less than a second. You're like, oh, do you mean Rowan's Cradle? Are you asking about the magic that was at Rowan's Cradle and is now in Swan?
Sorry.
Okay. My recollection of it. And he thinks for a bit. And he flickers his hand, and his hand just he kind of does the Bruce Lee, puts his hand out to do a one-hand punch, and then he flexes his hand, and a mage hand just comes out, and it flips across the room to get a book for him, and he looks into it, and he's like, 400, 500. He's like, my understanding is that the magic didn't get laid with Rowan. It wasn't during the burial service that the tiefling had for Rowan at the cradle. It appeared later, not long later, but he's like looking through and he says, "Oh here, a tiefling who had been guarding the rest site of Rowan. What's this word? What language is this?" He like holds it up to Bottom and he's like, "Do you know what language this is?
Do I know?
What languages do you speak?"
No, Mesh.
No. And then he'll hold it up to everybody. What languages does everybody speak?
In Elvish.
Dwarvish and Elvish.
Dwarvish and Elvish. It's got like echoes of Elvish to it, enough that actually I need both of you to make intelligence checks because it's not so close
Oh,
that you
good.
can just get it with your bad intelligences.
8.
Okay. Corvus, it's got echoes of looks like the elven word for drunk. But it's if you had to guess, you think it was maybe drow. But you can kind of tell that it says drunk. Every word in this book is written in a different language.
Corvus says, well, at an educated guess, I would expect that it says drow. I could critical to this. I could work out the rest of the text, and he will kind of like touch a pouch at his side, semantically at least, not perhaps for its true meaning.
He nods and says, "Actually, typically I write things this way because comprehend languages doesn't work very well on it because it takes so long to read and like switching between it, like it's resetting time. It doesn't matter. You said it looks like drow writing.
Well, it really looks like the word drunk, but that would be how I would expect the word drow to be written if you were in a particular dialect.
To be clear, it says drunk in a dialect that you rolled high enough to think is drow. The language is drow,
Oh,
not
okay.
that it says drow. And he says,
Okay. So, okay, then that's what I say. But I didn't understand.
He says, "Oh, drunk, drow. Yes, I knew the language once." And then he like goes back to it and says, "Tiefling on guard was reported to be. It's not drunk. It is hallucinating. Was hallucinating, and said that the cave had become overgrown, and an instant later was normal again. And that was the night on which the runes appeared."
Overgrown.
He kind of shrugs his. I heard from travelers. It was not a first-hand hearing of the story.
Is there anything else in the story about passage of time? We've come across a place that became overgrown, but it wasn't in the course of a single night. It was, to the perspective of the people who were living it, they had to relive the time. But the forests, the woods were
Oh, like a time dilation bubble.
cast by some agent of the woods to give the woods time to recuperate beyond what not the woods does to it.
It could be that. It's more likely that the woods were. It's actually more likely that the woods enacted the magic, and that in doing so, it changed the cave momentarily as the magic was being enacted.
So,
But probably not a time dilation.
this
Because the person on the outside wouldn't see that.
So if this Rowan's cradle was, if Rowan was somebody that the tieflings revered and that they had buried well, his gravesite, it was peaceful. But perhaps whatever was cast upon his grave wasn't of Rowan's intent.
It certainly wasn't. Rowan was not capable of casting spells. Well, no spells of note. Certainly not spells as capable as your bodyguard would even be of casting. That was a compliment. He said that you would be able to cast spells better than Rowan.
I know. He's kind of smiled.
I thought you were glaring. I caught the edge of it.
No.
He says, so certainly whatever the magic was, it was not Rowan's doing. Beyond the misfortune that they had in general, to be caught up in things that they never wanted to be caught up in.
Do you know anything more about that? The being caught up in the thing.
Only that despite someone can do something deeply good and heroic without it being a goal and purpose. And then they carry the burden of the expectation of being a hero.
Corvus Corvus has been kind of looking off into the air as he's thinking, but at this point he turns down and he looks at this tiny little boy seated underneath a tensor's flying disc and kind of squints at him.
He shrugs. I'm like, I only met Rowan once or twice. We were not great boon companions in life. I knew him only after the woods had used him to separate itself, as it were.
Corvus kind of glances over at Bartleman. Do you... Well, then do you think breaking this magic don't even know what to begin to think breaking this magic might do. Other than that the tieflings believe that within a year after this magic is broken, they will resume their identities. And that therefore I've agreed to do it.
Yeah. I will assume that because we haven't played for a while, that Corvus says within a month, which is the correct date.
Oh, okay.
Their thing was that they could do it without it in 6 months and with it in 1 month. And he says, "Oh, Tiefling have a little magic plan to restore the Fae to the woods." He shrugs and says, "I am very rarely forthcoming with the details of my rituals, often to my own detriment." He thinks for a moment. Goes, well, if it was something that they had tried to do and were sure it was being blocked by the magic at the cradle, next time they try to do the ritual, they will presumably discover that it's being blocked by wherever the wand is. They won't necessarily know that's you, but that is one thing. Also, He thinks about it for singers. Potentially. And then he thinks, and then you see his brain catch a different thought. Says, potentially, I could do a ritual to go up.
Oh,
Like the longest jump spell in the world. It's quicker than fly. He starts to scribble something down over the page that he just gave you quite important information from.
uh,
Corvus like looks at everybody in the room that isn't the tiny little wizard in like the fuck just happened, what did I miss kind of expression.
I shrug. I don't know either.
You
Says,
not be able to steal at that.
yeah, you're right. If you just jump, eventually, you only have the one point of contact. So, platforms, discs, and he like scribbles harder, and he says, I might have more to think about and say on the matter of your problem, which I definitely remember. If anybody would be interested in playing some dice, he looks around and hears a cough from the dwarf and glares at the dwarf and says, "Well, okay then. You go and talk to the people who you've definitely done the job that they asked you to do, and if you have more questions after that and are alive, you come back and you can ask me more questions. I will be remaining here until I have solved this platform jumping issue." If I had a platform attached to my back, then I could jump forever.
It-
A piece of toast buttered on both sides.
He's kind of
He
will
doesn't. He
give
doesn't take a
a
lot.
courteous
Lot
bow
from this.
and leave if everyone else is going to leave.
Yeah, Corvus is just gonna follow because he the fuck what the fuck's going on.
What happens if you reincarnate irresponsibly?
As soon as we're out of this tent, Corvus says, presumably that wasn't a 10-year-old human child.
No. That was a incredibly old wizard who incorrectly was put into the body of a 10-year-old through a series of cloning mishaps.
It's very funny when you say it, actually.
And these cloning mishaps have happened since the time of Rowan.
No. There's only the latest body. Normally they would appear as a man, but due to an incident, they are clone child. Reincarnate, rather. Exactly the same thing.
It's both.
It's a weird mixture.
They were reincarnating for a while, and then they went to cloning.
Between. Well, that wand of yours is going to be an issue, Bartleman.
Well, I'm not sure that the right move. Nobody in this situation can tell us anything, so really, I suppose I didn't know what else to do. It seemed like a good idea.
I don't mean that the making of the wand was the problem. I merely mean that, well, if the original charge was to disrupt the runes, kind of like nods at where Bartleman's presumably put the wand back into his sleeve.
Whatever was going to happen. Let's go get Martha. He was a good meeting.
All right, you head to the Tiefling camp where hey, well, it's not a gate because it's not a proper camp. It's at the opening. You see Terra, Lorena, and Movatra kind of standing, and they've been looking in your direction for a while. By the time you get over there, and you hear, "You see, I could tell my apprentice was approaching. So one of those perks of being a master." You all notice that
What it
Corvus is. You notice that Terra's about to speak, and Lorena just talks over them and says, "How did you go, apprentice and fellows?"
Corvus looks up at Lorena and kind of grimaces a bit. Kind of looks at the rest of the party and the empty space nearest him, and then looks back at Lorena.
She's not as insightful as you are.
Yeah.
She might be as insightful as you are. I don't know what your bonus is, but she's not actually as insightful. She blinks a little bit and says, "With the runes? The altar?
Oh.
No cradle?"
All this is happening.
Waterman here smashed them.
Morvoffer takes her staff
think.
off her back and pokes the space next to Corvus and frowns lightly that there was nothing invisible there.
And there's that. Or rather, not
Oh.
that.
Really? Well, I'm very sorry. I feel like I heard somewhere in there that someone scratched the runes off, broke the runes.
Yes.
Surely that's satisfying enough for you, friend Faye. And she gives Tara a look that's very much, this is not a time for you to speak. You just take the good thing that has happened for you and you move on. And Tara says, Tara inclines her head and begins to walk away, and Lorena and Movathra are free to go.
I thought that would be a much harder conversation.
Well,
Corvus just looks over at Lorena and
puts her glaive back on her back.
it certainly would have been if the Fae thought that she had any power to be in charge of this situation. She looks at Corvus and says, "Did you?" She will start kind of walking, presumably with you, away from the tiefling camp, so you're not.
yeah, I was gonna say let's leave this place.
Yeah.
Uh,
Walk and talk.
and she says, "Presumably, other than the loss of your companion, breaking the runes went easily."
We weren't disturbed with such a shame.
I found odd.
She kind of shrugs. I don't know who you would expect to disturb you.
There was so little, there was so little protection that one would wonder how, in all of these years, these ruins haven't accidentally been disrupted. Corvus isn't like being deliberately deceitful about the wand. He's just waiting until we are well into this camp, and all of these people who can just appear out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah,
aboard.
they're all rogues. She says, well, ultimately, you would. She said, I've been to Rowan's Cradle. That you'd have to desecrate a great many runes accidentally, and most people that would do that wouldn't desecrate this grave in particular. But it may make a great many Fae very happy and content.
Are we like away from the Tiefling camp now?
Yeah. You can all roll perception if you like to look around for things.
I was on 18 for so long.
Apartments too.
Sure. Yeah, you don't see any sneaky rogues following you. But of course, you probably wouldn't anyway. Yeah, you're like roughly back at where your camp was, which still has some of your stuff there. Anything that you left behind.
Hey, so like now that we're like away from camp, can what happened? What do you?
We got there.
Well, I know you.
And
I know you got there. What happened? Where the fuck's Frankie?
He sort of started acting as though they were compulsion, and then I believe Corvus found them with a tingle spell. They seemed to want us to destroy the rooms, so we did that. I used a wand to absorb the magic. Yeah. The last room was coughed out. It reverted to their true form.
of course.
The Ravathra, the magic that empowered the Revenant. Not. My master said that there are two ways for that magic to end, but that it does end. He's gone. I think the way the magic ended was. And he looks to Lorena. Yeah. He didn't, in the end, tell me what the options were.
Rother's just looks very bothered. But I think she knows about like the some what talked about the Revenant and how that functioned. But after a beat, she just nods. I thought it would be louder when I thought it would like it to be. It, Yeah, she's just kind of like looking at the ground for a bit.
Could we circle back to the bit where the magic went into a wand?
Yeah, I'll the launch.
She looked at it. There's functionally no way that she's going to get more information than Altenza did about it. So she says, posed by the specifics of how they worded their request, you did fulfill it, and that is all that really matters to a witch's promise. She looks at Corvus, which is with a look of like, this is the technicality for which you are not being punished. Because
Corvus
they
just,
wouldn't have been okay with it, but she is okay with it.
yeah, Corvus just it did in the end quite the fate deal, I suppose. We did speak to a Tensor who described that magic came about at Rowan's cradle much after Rowan's death. And that it was accompanied by overgrowth, something like the woods themselves. The tiefling that was on guard duty that night, not actually drunk, they thought he was hallucinating. He thought he saw the cave become overgrown, and the magic was there the next day. So I don't know if it was part of the original intent when the tieflings buried Rowan, or if it was something of the woods themselves, and if it's how exactly and who exactly bound to the Fae.
If it's something that the woods did, that typically means it's bad for the people. So removing that would be good. Just as a starting point.
I agree that the woods, not the woods fight. It's just it doesn't fit together exactly for me that the woods would overgrow Rowan's cradle in particular, given that Rowan was the one. It would be canny if you were a human or an elf or a thinking being. If you were someone that thought, it would make sense that you would use the grave of your enemy who ensnared you as a way to continually fight back. But because people wouldn't disrupt Rowan's cradle, but I don't understand how the woods would do this to.
Haven't you directly interacted with an aspect of the woods that had the intelligence to lead a plan of a time bubble, if I remember correctly?
It was that it's not the intelligence that confuses me, it's the ability to model thinking. It didn't. Am I misremembering about how that like the avatar was described in? Because I felt like our interactions with the avatar were. It
No,
was very.
I think you're used enough to how she speaks to you that she is perhaps suggesting that the hole in your logic is that you aren't aware of everything that the woods are capable of. And to think that you are because of what you've experienced is flawed. But she says, even if that was true, that it was too human a thing to do, too intelligent, too canny, as you put it, there's also the other side of it that it would be deeply spiteful to enact something bad on the gravestone of someone that had upset you.
Corvus nods
And
the point.
perhaps it's easier for you to see spite as something more primal. She would say that in a way that sounds admonishing. I might have, but she doesn't.
Corvus
Um,
nods the point.
Well, I can lend you my hut for the evening if somewhere definitely devoid of sneaky play to sleep.
That would be welcome.
Thank you.
She nods and puts the chicken down, and it just like kind of looks back at her. It looks back at her as if it doesn't know what to do, and she prods it lightly with her foot and says, I don't have time for this. It's no pretense that you are a normal chicken. Please just continue. And it kind of clucks, really disappointed that it doesn't get to be performative, and just steps forward. And by the third step, it's like become a huge chicken, and by the fourth step, it's become a hut with chicken legs that sinks into the ground, roughly where your camp was before. And the hut remains.
Is that why you always had a chicken? Or you had a chicken, Corvus?
No, I was not breeding my own home.
Also, the
I
fact that Corvus didn't know that this chicken was a familiar makes it even funny.
I did a favor when we were back in Oakshire, and they had an extra chicken and not let me refuse it.
Good. If
Well,
if you had been
okay.
carrying around a house the whole time, I would have beat you up.
This is exclusively the providence of my master. Corbin just shakes his head, enters the hut, holds the door for the others, and kind of like pauses and catches Morvather's gaze for a moment longer as they enter.
As all you enter, it's a really stereotypical looking cottage, in that it's like got a stone fireplace on which there's like a pot with something boiling away on it. The fire is already lit. There's a wooden table in the center of it that who goes in first?
Well, Corvus holds the door, so he's last by default.
He's kind of going first.
Nizikar, it's a table that would seat 4 people, like it's a round table. And then there's like a bunch of cooking space that's immaculately clean, but somehow gives the vibe that it's covered in flour. Like that it's so well used that the flour is like part of the surface.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of brooms that are sweeping, just freestanding on their own, and a kettle that is probably about a minute away from boiling. Whoever comes in next, Isakana, you notice the room become bigger and the table stretch to be big enough for 6 people. And as each person enters, the room becomes more accommodating for the 5 of you that will eventually enter the room. But really, only Nisakana you can tell, because once it's 4 people, it's not that much bigger.
Cool.
Also, as Lorena walks in, she's no longer the imposing, tall, Kyriel true form that she wore to impress the Fae. She's back to being quite a maybe about Eltense's height, but she has long tails that are black, and she's wearing quite a frilly gothic dress. She says, "Okay, well, there'll be food. It will be ready very shortly. You can make yourselves at home. There's rooms upstairs. This was a 1-story hut when you walked in. There's rooms upstairs," and she gestures, and a staircase appears as she gestures. And I can take you northward if that's where you're going tomorrow, but I have limited capabilities to do that. So north is the only way.
Thank you.
Corvus, Corvus is at the kettle, just like in that moment before it whistles, and begins pouring for the others.
She will before she'll like bring out a couple of loaves of bread that have been sitting in the embers, keeping warm, and put the like kind of like a ladle, but a really huge pot. She like dips it into the stew and puts that in the center of the table and says, Corvus knows where any fruit is. There's some cheese around. I don't have any wine. Tea is really all I drink. I will leave you to discuss things amongst yourselves, but you should be aware that I will hear everything that you say anyway, just by nature of the house. So can't really turn that off.
Thing it's your pleasure.
She nods and will go upstairs to give you perceived privacy.
Like Corvus serves for Bartleman and Morvathra, like instinctively, and then hesitates at Nisakana.
I'll have some tea. Thank you.
Corvus pours for her as well this time, and pours in a final final teacup, and sits down.
Oh, I forgot. Is Lorena Elven or no?
Neither of the forms that you have seen have been Elvish.
Okay.
And also, Corvus, I don't think seen an Elvish form.
No, Corvus. That was part of the problem. Yeah.
What are we doing?
You can also all just go to sleep if it's too soon after for you to have a conversation about it. You can just
Made me think.
have idle chatter.
I think after kind of lightly eating for a bit, Revothra would, having saw Corvus look at earlier, would look up to him, and after a beat, they wanted you to like hold them there, right?
They didn't. They didn't want to be forced. I did ask if being held forced by me was better than being forced to destroy the ruins, and they did. I thought so. Frankie died singing.
Happened very fast. It wasn't exactly clear what was causing them to do what they were doing even.
Corvus looks at you at the stage of like it happened very fast, and I suppose it,
I'm glad I got to sing. That's better. When you guys were talking about it, I thought it was just like you scratched a rune and poof dust.
We walked into the cave. Their choices became not their own. While they were entangled, whatever was compelling them was. They threw daggers to try to break the runes. Lorena told us earlier that something happens to revenants if they die doing their task, and said that she would leave it to Frankie to explain, and he did not. At this point, I look over at Bartleman.
Or like addition or judgingly.
No, in like a
Getting
like
insight.
in just like a yeah, like you always know the magical things, and Corvus, like what he doesn't know, he tends to expect you to know, like because of the different aspects of our powers.
Marvin didn't understand much of what was happening in that situation.
I did not. I was keeping watch. I barely even turned around in time to see them disappear.
Strange death. I still had the lock of their hair from the first time, and it's gone. Like it wasn't ever there.
Moore's gonna reach in her pouch. I think she still has these. And if so, we'll find the pair of weighted dice that Frankie had tampered with.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of look at it, and she'll take one and hand it over to Corvus.
Corvus does that kind of thing where he reaches out to take it, freezes a little before he does, and then does so, and then just lurks back it deep into his hood.
Sorry you were not there.
It's okay. I don't think I would have been able to do anything. Also, I think she like pauses, like, "Oh, that was kind of like a not used to very many nice comments from Niska," and I was like, uh, I think after another beat of silence, more, not to anyone, more just to the air. Also, like you said, you could hear anything that happened in the house. Does that mean that if I asked for more pie, you could hear this right now?
Corvus, you get a sending in your head that just says, "Get your friend more pie." Oh, why am I being bothered with this? I'm trying to be unobtrusive. That's probably 25 words.
Corvus just and he starts battering around and basically adding to this stew that we have been eating. Like putting out additional plates, fruit, a little bit of cream, honey, that kind of thing, and a slice of pie, a generous slice, and that small like bowl of fruit and cream and honey passed over, and he's like, it's good with oats. So what we know is that whatever incarnated Frankie. And I'm trying to like only use Corvus's knowledge here from things that were talked about out loud to him directly. So if I overstep that, let me know. It couldn't have been the woods that wanted him to break those runes. He seemed to think that it was all about what. And he like glances down at his chest and kind of like touches the cloth over his like second heart and says, Lucy, and Lucy certainly was at opposition to whatever these forces were, and so obviously we're still continuing with what Emerald told us to do. But do we keep the wand? And then what do we do next?
Very strange, though. I don't know why Lucy had such a strong reaction to the runes. Say, they were more knowledgeable than we knew.
Maybe.
It doesn't seem like even powerful sages understand that magic, or maybe not understand, but understand not very are aware of its purpose.
The problem is we don't know when exactly he died. That might tell us.
Centuries ago.
Sorry, we don't know when Frankie died.
Oh,
I think you do know that it was exactly when the last rune.
No,
was,
I mean like
it was when the magic.
originally.
OG
Oh,
died.
first time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You will never know.
Like we don't, that. Yeah.
We really don't.
No souls to speak with dead about.
Really didn't know anything about Frankie. That they had the connections.
You can make a medicine check. You did see his corpse twice. Anybody that
Yeah.
wants to make a medicine check?
I was going to say because I did gauge it, and I think the first time like you had said you had given me some information there.
excuse me.
If it just dusted, it had to be pretty old, right?
Well, no, because I saw it. I saw his
When you-
after the Avatar.
Yeah, you all would have seen it after the Avatar because he got a burial that day.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Everybody's seen it at least twice. The dusting was not because of its age, the body's age. But yeah, you can all make medicine checks if you like. A 12 is not enough. The corpse, Nishikana.
This is not my forte.
Yeah, because like that was part of why like I pulled the lock of hair and everything because
Yeah. Stick it. It's not really my thing.
I'm
Well,
trying.
the good thing is that you two aren't the ones that are likely to pass this.
I'm trying to roll it. It's just everything getting really shitty.
Story of my life.
I blame the foundry.
Yeah, like it's not even rolling my regular dice.
You can roll it twice. It rolled it fine on my screen, but you can have advantage because you were staring directly at him.
Yeah, like I did try to like autopsy it before people. That didn't help.
Well, that's sad. Did you want to also roll Movatra? Because you did see the one time forever ago. Hard to say. None of you are really experts at time of body based on decay.
Um, I don't know. He used to. Did he ever describe out loud that he had seen Lucy, or is that only something that he experienced? Like that he had seen.
No, I think Frankie said that he
You
had
had shared
seen
that.
Lucy on the way past.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if it was some hallucination, or something unique to him, but he did used to
Oh,
see
no, not that he
Lucy.
was seeing, not that he was seeing Lucy as a phantom, that he'd
Oh.
seen her body. Yes.
Okay.
As your conversation doesn't necessarily wind down, but as it hits a lull, you are all quite tired. None of you slept well the previous night, even though I did give you a long rest. And this is a cozy, warm cottage that's nicer than most of the houses any of you have ever been in. So it is edging towards the kind of time that you feel like you might be going to sleep, and you can continue your conversation in the morning if you like. And we can go on break, because it's about that time. Right. As you retire, when you get upstairs, each of you walks up the stairs, and it's like to a different single room. And as you all go through your nightly doings, you begin to, one by one, fall asleep. As the night passes, everybody roll me a d20 before we go to break. First Nisakana, then Bartleman, and then Corvus and Movathra. You hear at the back of your brains the sound of thick chains moving agonizingly slowly. And you open your eyes to a world you know to be a dream. And the four of you are standing in front of an enormous chained creature. It's human, sort of, but most of its features are overgrown with small trees and forests litter its torso. Everywhere on it is covered by a wide scape of greenery. It's 70 feet tall. The only not covered are its wrists, where it's chained. Green eyes open as we go on break.
We're not
We'll be
breaking.
back at 20 past.
Cool. Not terrifying.
Hello and welcome to the second half of Into the Shadewoods, where we last left off before the break. The party had all woken in what is clearly a dream, with this huge 70-foot tall figure chained by the wrist to a ceiling so high that you can't even begin to fathom where it is. Its eyes open, bright, vibrant green, like canopies of trees. It looks down at the four of you and says, "This is unusual. It has been so long since I've seen anyone." Can I get you all to make me perception checks?
Is it,
Good
like,
roll
obvious?
continue.
Is it obvious to us in this moment that
Gosh,
like the others are there, or are we just kind of like, is that what this is for?
No, you're like standing next to each other.
Okay.
You're so bad.
Very
You're
distracted
rolling
by
here.
I know.
We're very distracted by the
Freaking
7-foot creature in front of us.
Oh, you are. It says, "I know not how you have come to be here." And it like tries to crane down to look at you better, but you hear the chains catch, and it can't move further. Like it's spread its arms out as wide as possible by the chains. Then from the darkness, where its shadow is kind of, there's not really a light source in here, but if there was one, it's like very high up. You just seem to be able to innately see things. And from the darkness that is being shadowed by this creature's form, a slight, kind of whitish blonde-haired figure walks. They're wearing very basic adventurer kind of clothes, a little old-fashioned, like leather pants, a shirt, maybe some like very mild leather armor. They walk towards you on legs that look like they haven't walked for a long time. And they say,
They're unchained.
"Yes." And they say to you, How come you to be here? Have you been cursed to be shackled to me also?"
I fell asleep.
Perhaps what may
You
have
said.
happened is I transferred magic into the wand yesterday. Perhaps the magic binding you.
The figure that walks out is human-sized, smaller than Movatha and Nisakana. And it looks up and that shares like a moment looking at the imprisoned giant. And the giant says, "Perhaps that could explain it." It takes a deep breath, and as it breathes, you feel like a shuddering in the entire space. It is. "Well, I hope that when you awake, it is not in this place in which I serve my penance." It would
I know
be
you said it's
better.
carry on. I didn't realize you were still speaking.
It would have been better had you just removed the magic entirely. But no matter.
I know you said earlier that it was very clearly a dream. Does it feel anything like trance to Corvus?
No.
Who would have? Okay.
No. The giant has had tasked one to come and free me, but it doesn't continue the sentences. Well,
Is
yes. Again, it's trying to crane down because it's so far away from you. It can't really see you very well.
I
Every
think
time it tries, it realizes it can't.
is it the kind of thing that if like Corvus stepped back a bit, like he could see him better, like because of the angle?
No, you suspect that while it's quite easy for you to see its features, it is looking at ant-sized things like that are on the ground. Then that's ultimately the problem.
You tasked somebody. Did he agree to the task?
It is not within my trapped fleeting power to know. But when his friend passed, his departed soul screamed for something to continue her legacy. And as she had no soul to return, I offered to return his. But it is not within my nature to create these deals and pacts. So perhaps I did so in a flawed manner. But I cannot simply bring one back from the dead. I can only create a remnant of what they once were and set them on a path.
What are you?
I was once as much a part of the woods as the woods itself. And some time ago, I made a decision to leave and to help those that the woods was throttling and smothering to death. And I found an ally with which to do that. And he looks down at the human figure. And for my misdeeds, I was punished to be shackled to my champion. I know not what I am now, but a fading part of a world where I would have no place anyway.
If with you here, shackled, we've met avatars of the woods before, and the avatar that we met saw things only as the woods and not the woods. We outside of this place, we are unable to come to an accord with the woods, and the woods has uh
The woods were always aggressive. It is only by virtue of my interference that I hope those of you who arrived have gained a foothold.
Yes, we have. It's not changing.
Did you ask a question? I call this that I missed completely.
it's more like a he's trying to draw a connection of whatever's left out there
Mm.
as the woods can't find an
Remember.
accord, because what part of it is like
I remembered what I was going to respond to. He says, well, I am long separated from the woods, but perhaps you have simply not met an avatar with as much strength and power as they can be granted. Or perhaps the woods no longer does that. It's not so single-minded, you see. Think of it as a flock of birds. They may migrate together and fly in formation, but they are still individual birds.
there's a cult of people that I would have said were not the woods, except for that they seem to be in alignment with perhaps the part of the woods that chained you.
Well, make no mistake of it. The entirety of the woods hated me for my choice. You are the interloper. You are those who came here and took of the wood, of the trees.
Why were you? Why were you? Um, why were you able to forgive that? The rest wasn't.
I didn't forgive. I just saw two things trying to survive. I don't believe you all came here willfully to destroy. But no, I didn't forgive.
Uh,
So you're like the nice woods.
The part of the woods that some time ago believed that things could be peaceful, and that those of you who came as interlopers could exist within the woods safely and without being destructive to a fault.
There's a part of the woods that of nature that I've been closer to through my life. That's always felt more accepting than a lot of the rest of it. Is that anything related to you?
I've been trapped here for long enough that I have no way of knowing. Are you one born to the grove?
Probably will nod.
No, it is not. There have often been wardens of all woods. In the world that I envisaged, you would have had the role as intermediaries between the wild and the woods. But no, it's not specifically of my doing.
What is Rowan, or what is the blonde doing in this moment?
Kind of listening.
Okay,
Mainly.
but like listening, but like actively present as a listener, not something weird.
Yes, actively listening.
Okay.
The thing.
Yeah. You said at one time.
I, as Jack, forgot what I said as one time about.
The implication was like that at one time, this part of the woods thought that some sort of accord could be formed, like there was a past sort of thing.
Make an insight check. I say at some time, a lot of the time. It's a
Yeah.
phrase that I like.
Yeah.
He means that he has no concept of the outside world beyond
Okay.
that. Like, yeah, like he hasn't talked to anybody for a long time, and making Frankie a revenant was probably like the only outside interaction he'd been able to have since he's been trapped here. So he simply doesn't know. Why did you remove the runes but capture the magic?
Because we were forced to remove the runes. But we didn't know what the magic did, whether good or bad.
It nods slowly as much as it can. And has your coercion been lifted?
Yes.
It nods again.
What would you do if I found a way to disperse the magic in the wand?
As I did before, attempt to find a way to make the woods peaceful for both. Although perhaps I hold more enmity than I once did for what I was once a part of. But even in this, there is a difference. I can sense things. I can feel strong energies that I couldn't before. I do not believe that it will be easy to destroy the magic completely now that it is within another object. But perhaps your skill is enough? What were you all traveling for before you were forced into this service?
People lived among would figure out why incidences with the woods have been growing more frequent.
It nods. Says if you find a way to release the one, then I can be of more service. However, I do feel a great wrong to the north. And it strains slightly, and you hear the chains rattling as it like tries to reach further out of this prison than it has recently, knowing now that it's changed. Need you all to make strength saving throws.
You. You.
Wait.
It's good. I thought it was Mavatra that rolled the 14. Everybody else falls down and takes an inconsequential amount of damage. Unless things go really badly. I'll roll it if things start going very badly. Nizakani, you stay standing as this creature looks out into the world. It says, everything is so dark. I see nothing except this wrongness. And he projects kind of directly into your minds an image of a town covered in this amber, cloudy fluid that has hardened and crystallized. He says, if I am unable to help you, I believe that this place will serve to drive back the malevolence of the woods.
Not the
And I think
place we were
Bartleman,
going.
you well, you didn't really know where you were going after this, but Bartleman, you know that is the what the Sap massacre looked like.
Yeah.
So I think you've probably at some point been there.
Very well. There, I will see if I can undo what I have done.
I believe that if you journey there, you will find something malevolent of the woods. Perhaps it is this cult that you speak of. Perhaps another avatar. But if you can cleanse that place, it is the center of the wood's current magic.
How was it that you knew of the gnome whose soul cried out? Was she aligned to you somehow that you knew of that
The
place?
gnome soul did not cry out. It was the boy's soul that cried. Upon sensing its fellow dissipate. They probably didn't know it was a gnome, but he put it together from context. They were bonded bonded in a way that few are. But no, his companion, the bonded soul, was
Her name was
destroyed.
Lucy.
Lucy. Her soul was destroyed.
I don't know you've been captured here for some time, but we were. He just kind of like gestures. Originally, she was to accompany us as we went to try to determine what the woods were doing. And she ran a array of the cult. They had. They performed a ritual, and during that ritual, her body. We did not see the moment of her death, but her body, from which grew, I would have said a tree, except for a blossom from her chest. And he will gesture and then like pull aside and show the heart.
How do you show the heart? It's in your chest.
But I thought it was like, I thought you described it as like a thing that kind of erupts from the chest.
They just bare chest. I mean,
I know,
what's hard to get, Jack?
There's a piece of cloth that it was once attached to that is now poking out of your chest, like it has been fused to your skin.
Oh,
You
I thought it
cannot
was
see
much
the
more
heart
grisly
through
than
it.
that. I thought it was much more
No,
grisly
it's
than that.
somehow very mild. You just have a handkerchief sewn into your chest forever.
Got it. So he will show that, and he will like describe that moment of like it's fusing essentially, and what was left of her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand what you have told me. What do you have a question to go with that information?
Merely offering the information in case you were able to connect it somehow to means and motives of what you once were a part of. And it's like in that like very careful like repeating the way he had described, or the way that the Woods had described itself.
Sure. He said, he says, what's the paraphernalia of the ritual?
It was a gleaming flower from the body of a recently slain foe, plucked by myself, which could not have been their intent. When I presumably interrupted this ritual, it was with flower wrapped in a silk handkerchief during a battle. And he's like describes like the whole like
I want to know if Corvus is calling it a ritual because of Corvus just using that term loosely, or if Charlie thinks that I at some point implied that it was a ritual.
that's the latter. Like
Okay. If I did imply that, which is possible, it's been a long time, then it was either because you rolled badly on something, or it was erroneous because it was not a ritual in any fashion.
I think that was an assumption we had made, and we did.
Okay,
I do remember.
It was an assumption you made.
I do remember rolling not great on those Arcana checks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. He'll say it sounds less like a ritual and more like a killing of a magically gifted, a magically blooded being. The flower was the magic ripped from the body when the soul left. And then you took the flower, and it turned into a heart. That
Just
was
nods.
there's no insidious plan. It is better that you had the flower than some agent of the malevolent woods. But they didn't
Corvus.
plan to have. Did you fight? You fought people afterwards? They would have left a far stronger force had they known the power of the artifact that had spawned from that killing.
Corvus just a very kind of breathy, echoey laugh. Just, yeah, I should hate to see what would have happened if they had a hold of it.
I'm happy to answer any further questions you have to the best of my ability.
Can you let us out of here?
Yes.
Will you
And
let
then
us
you
out of
wake
here?
up. Yeah. You asked if you could leave. He lets you all leave. No more questions for you. Question time's over. You don't wake up. You leave the dream and continue to sleep. And you can all do a long rest if you need it. I don't know. I guess probably some people do magic wise.
Yeah. So,
In the morning,
I
you
don't use anything.
each head downstairs to the smell of baking bread and freshly churned butter, which I don't get. I guess you probably can't smell. Baking bread, there is freshly churned butter and like honey that seems like it's recently been taken from a hive, despite the fact that there's no beehives around here. And Rainer is puttering around, which is weird because she's in a small child form.
sickly.
I think
Corvus is making tea. He's
Because
quiet,
she's
like he's doing his
perplexed
kitchen
as she
part.
comes downstairs in her armor.
also we just kind of go downstairs. If there's like kind of like food to pick at, we'll pick some of it up and start to eat. And then no one says anything. It's just like, so anyone weird dreams last night, right?
Yep.
Corvus is making tea, but like giving Niskana the stink eye as he makes the tea.
But it was weird.
It was, but
I've never been in a dream with other people before. That's weird. I didn't like it.
Been once with my grand involved in mushroom.
Delightful.
haven't had the opportunity for quite some years now. If like he takes several breaths for patience and says, "It happens again." Now that we have established that we're not trapped, perhaps we take every bit of opportunity to find all of the information we can before we ask to leave.
I was gonna ask what his name was, or its name was, their name was. I don't know if they introduced themselves or not. I was really distracted by how big those chains were. when I first got in there.
I don't think they did.
Uh,
Also, is Lorena having any reaction to this conversation?
If Lorena does have a reaction, it's so well schooled that you don't see it.
Don't care.
But Elvis, probably you can tell that like there's a rhythm to whatever she's doing that is slightly off. So she's certainly listening to what you're talking about.
Cora just kind of like keeps adding a little bit of information, like in this conversation with the others. It is some real petty, like, this must be what it feels like to have a ton of information that you're not sharing with somebody. By the time like he's finished like serving tea out and like slicing the bread that she has made for the morning and all of the things that like the things that he is responsible for, he will. Well, it appears that it won't be so easy as to break the wand to finish discharging the duty to the tiefling if that was what we were to choose to do. And also that that which it binds is wholly sentient, an avatar of the woods, and not that we had the opportunity to speak to them, but what could only have been Rowan as well.
Lorena walks around and gives everybody it's quite a red porridge, and you can see there's like strawberries kind of muddled into it, kind of they're slightly mushed from a jar where it looks like they've been macerated like overnight. And each of you gets a bowl of that to go with your bread and butter and honey.
Thank you.
Of
Corpus
course.
just has his face like buried in the bowl, sniffing, like smelling it, not even out of anxiety, but out of just homesickness.
Sure. Lorena puts her hand not on his kind of shoulder because of the metal plate armor, but like on the top of her head and says, "Of course, please, while you're in my house, do not wear armor to the table. It is very smelly."
I wouldn't have put my armor back on for breakfast.
I thought you said you walked down the stairs loudly because of your armor. Didn't you say those words? Am I crazy?
No.
You're crazy? I thought I thought you said something about it specifically.
No, I think I said I went upstairs to take off my armor before bed.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense then. All right, don't worry about it. She doesn't say that. I genuinely thought that you said that you were loud because of your armor.
It's,
No.
it's not just you. I thought you had armor at the table.
I'm inside a house. I'm not gonna eat in my armor because it's also not
Yeah, I thought it was
best
weird.
mobility.
Yeah. So in that case, she puts her hand on your shoulder and says, "You're welcome, dear." And we'll go back to whatever she was doing. That is still within earshot because now she is trying to eavesdrop and therefore doesn't want to make it seem like she's not trying to do that.
Yeah.
You said you were smelling the porridge just for like homesickness, right?
Yeah, like it's absolutely. Corpus knows that he needs to be paranoid because he's been like basically more or less using her with the fact that like he has something and like he let that conversation draw out for a very long time. But like he can't even care about that. Like even if he gets poisoned right now, he's gonna be grateful for it.
Okay, then make a Constitution saving throw.
That's fine.
Well, you didn't get poisoned, but it is red because it has strawberries in it, except for yours, which is red because it has strawberries and some of the hottest chilies that you have ever tasted.
Corvus just like looks at her, looks back at this porridge, and then
When
takes another
you
very
look
careful
at her,
bite.
she says, "Oh, it's a secret ingredient. I know how much you enjoy those."
Corvus, why does your face look like that? This is delicious.
Lorena laughs. It is very good for the rest of you. It's very sweet. So a little bit above the game. Is your plan to go to the village of the Sap Massacre or to try and break the wand or both?
Both.
Or neither?
Both is good.
Both, yeah.
Both.
Poor candle
Both is
spells. But
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're gonna because I don't think they like at least Barrowman doesn't want to just waste time standing around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could be doing stuff.
Yeah. So eventually, and you can go back to your conversation, but eventually Lorena will offer to take you northward close enough to that village that you will be within like a day's travel.
when's the last time we heard from Emerald?
It's only been a couple days.
Yesterday?
Or yesterday.
Yeah, not even that.
It hasn't been long.
Yeah, just sure. Couldn't remember.
Very little time.
Yeah, she probably said something snarky about Corvus. It's my memory. Yeah, what's your wand discharging strategy? I don't like that term.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Not as bad as Maddie making me think about succulent flaps.
What?
Don't worry about it. It was a bad time.
Completely innocuous thing.
It's not Maddie's fault either. Well, beyond saying succulent and flaps in the same sentence.
But not next to each other.
Pretty
God.
close. It's a short sentence.
Anyway.
I would probably try to sounds like we're not going to have very much travel time, but I think Barrowman, like if he has enough time to experiment, he would probably try to gauge whether he could dispel the magic using dispel magic, maybe like a ritualized version of that. If that seems too difficult, what he might try to do is to attempt to link this wand with, like, to make a bunch of wands for narrative's sake. 7, because I like that. It makes 6 other wands and attempt to split the power amongst the 7 wands to then destroy those wands individually. But he's not going to cast it unless he's reasonably sure he could dispel the magic.
Certainly, you can't dispel the one wand.
Okay, yeah.
I do like the idea of separating it into 7. It will take you time.
Okay.
But you're pretty confident that given the time, you could dispel it that way. It might need more than 7 wands, but 7, you think 7 you could do it. But if you separate it into like 31, you would definitely just do it. It's like 7. 7's like a number that is, 7's like a number where it's a bit like, it's manageable, but it doesn't take you months to do it. Because you think each one would take you like 3 days to like make and transfer across. So
Okay, let's start working on that. but
Sure.
it sounded
You do that.
like this. Yeah, I'm not going to prevent us from going about our business.
Yeah. Basically, that will happen before the epilogue of this campaign. We'll make the roll for that. You, when you're kind of in the plan phase for this, Lorena says, well, I believe that this is the kind of test that is a good test for my apprentice. So I will not attend this village with you. But if you have need of spells or magic to be cast upon yourself, I can service you in that fashion. If you have some idea of what you want. And she kind of looks at Corvus and she just clicks her fingers and you instinctively know. It's like when she used to, like, she didn't measure you for clothes because you were, like, from a weaver's family, but she would, like, measure you to see, like, for reasons. I don't really know why. And you maybe don't know why, but she would measure you occasionally. And it's like she clicks at her fingers at you to stand up.
And he does.
And she says, well, okay, I'm going to need some time. But feel free to come and tell me what you would need, and tomorrow morning I will take you north. And she makes you stand there for 12 hours without moving.
Yep.
Brutal.
And at the end of it, she is doing a bunch of stuff. She's chatting with all of you if you come to talk to her about spells and stuff. But at the end of it, next to you, there is a perfect simulacrum of Corvus. And you will have control of both for the remainder of the simulacrum's life, or Corvus's life.
Corvus is
Both of their lives, because the simulacrum could live.
Yep. Corvus just like this. It's very funny to see the simulacrum and him like mirror each other with that crooked stare.
Oh, they didn't give the simulacrum a mouth that can speak in English, but can cast spells.
Nice.
The simulacrum is intentionally flawed so that it can't speak, but it can cast spells. Because she doesn't want to hear your voice in an echo.
Yep.
But yes, does anybody else have spells they would like to have cast on themselves in preparation for the next day? Maddie, nah. I don't need a 9th level support caster giving me anything.
I don't know
What would
what's good,
Nisibana
you know.
want in terms of what would she ask for if she could ask for something? Feeble mind. Make me less smart.
Make me even dumber. I think she would either want something that could give her a boost to hitting things or a boost to protection.
I'll have a look.
Whatever way you want to interpret that.
Sure. Thing for making fight good.
Yeah.
Parliament of Arthur, do you have anything that you can think of?
Death Ward. I think Bartleman would ask for something that would enhance his spell's power, or something that would prevent him from going down.
Yeah, sure. She'll cast Death Ward on you because she doesn't have anything that's just going to make your spells better.
Yeah, I was looking for a while. I think that's just.
Because of the nature of spells in 5e.
I mean, Death Ward's just pretty good.
I think
Yeah.
Arthur would just kind of sit around and try to think for a minute, but then we'll just tell her. If you think there's anything you could give me that would be good for me, I'll take that. And if not, that's also fine. Thank you for all the food.
She kind of smiles. I think she'll give you more pie, which gives you more Heroes Feast. So you all have Heroes Feast.
All right.
Little leather pie
Uh,
satchels.
No, you eat it for dinner that night. And can you everybody roll me 2d10 for your maximum hit point increase?
Oh, dang.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Well,
What is this?
Nice.
right, well,
Only my brother got
Arleman's the only one that
sure.
didn't roll doubles. So, I mean, yeah. Look, Mothra, who can make their own temporary hit
Yeah.
points, is like the good one for this. That's a lot. That was a good Heroes Feast.
That's
and you get all the other benefits
not-
of Heroes Feast, which I'm not going to keep track of.
Hero's Feast isn't temp HP, it's max HP increase.
No max HP.
Yeah.
But, it won't be max HP for the form. I meant
Sure,
that
okay.
Mothra can get forms. It also means that nobody has to cast Aid, so that's useful.
What else do we have
Um,
from Heroes Feast? I always forget.
You
Advantage
are
on-
cured of all diseases and poison. You become immune, poison, and frightened, and all wisdom saving throws are with advantage.
Which is the biggest one. I guess it's crazy. Concerned.
Well, just pure immunity to frightened and poison is very good as well.
Yeah, that's also.
Um,
And immune to
and
poison
then-
damage, or just immune to the poisoned condition?
No, we're cured, I believe.
No, it's immune to poison.
Is it?
It says in the wording,
Okay.
which I will read as you are immune to poison damage and the poisoned condition.
Nice.
Because I
Very
think
nice.
that's the way that it works with dwarves, where they're like resistant
Yeah.
to both. This is also true for your simulacrum. It doesn't get the extra hit points because I don't think it can. But it has all the other stuff. Something to make you hit harder. Sure, you get a she gives you this kind of two small they kind of look like jelly. Like little balls of jelly, but when you touch them they're like it's like a bubble that you can't break without willingly breaking it. And she gives you a blue one and she says this will make you this will protect you and make you generally better for a minute, and this will help you recover for an hour. And she gives you so a blue one that helps you be better for a minute, and a red one that helps you recover.
Okay.
And Andrew, you get Death Ward.
Yeah.
Also, I just thought of another thing. If you have it, if it's lying around, you might not. It kind of probably sounds weird, but do you have like a gilded acorn?
Like a spell component.
Yes.
What spell do you need this for? For what?
Or why? Or why, Chris?
For why, pray tell?
Is it for summon beast? Because
Yes.
I'm gonna just not let you have it, probably.
Why not?
Oh no, that's fine. Summon beast is because I thought it was summon animals.
The
Well, you're going to summon
animals.
8 things.
Yeah.
A gilded acorn that she just has to have lying around, huh? She doesn't, but she says if you can round up 200 gold, then she can make one.
I have gold.
Poor Barbara who looks at herself who has no liquid currency. It's like,
And she's like, no, I would need the gold, is the problem.
I have 20.
Switch to gild the acorn. Well, that's some of it.
10% of the way there.
We're not a very flush party.
Gold
set
is not
out-
really a currency, it's well traded here.
We also set out on a singular task that we have not yet completed.
And you're not getting paid for
Yeah.
And we're not getting paid for it.
I feel like this is wrong. I don't understand where this would have come from. But my character sheet says for some reason that I have 155 GP, which feels
Did you collect some from somewhere?
Did you?
I
loot
might have.
something?
Did you sell some books? Did you sell something
I must
to
have.
the shop?
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess.
you did sell books.
Well, that's a lot of the way there.
Yeah. Corvus
You'd
actually
need
like.
to find 25 extra gold.
Yeah, Corvus like has that
20?
general like I can't ever
Oh,
help
with
you,
my 20.
and like he reaches for his coin pouch to offer like what little he expects to be in there, and when he sets it on the table, it's just this
Thinking.
really substantial clunk, and then he and he pours it out. He's counting 155. Strangely enough.
Yeah, but is it all gold? That's the other thing. Yeah, it is probably all gold. You also find another coin purse when you're like flicking around your pockets, which has 16 gold pieces in it, and also a bond stone with the letter L on it.
Does this belong to any of the rest of? And he's like
No.
picking through it, turning the stone in his hand. I don't. Archie is prone to. He hasn't been. Haven't had a chance to. Bondstone. Does that mean something in particular?
It does if you had a bond stone before, but if you haven't, then you don't really know what they are. And Corvus wouldn't know what they are anyway, because who Corvus is.
Yeah. He's going to turn it, like bring it into the center of the table, and ask Bartleman to take a glance at it. I just not the most observant, but I do feel like I would have. What color is the pouch? Like, is it just a plain black pouch, or is it
Probably
embellished?
slightly more flamboyant than that.
That's what I was. Yeah. Does anybody know what that is? The gold I can make out.
I mean, I think
Take a look at
you
it.
know what a bond stone is. Yeah, it's a bond stone. It's like a thing that you give. You would give it to somebody that you're married to, and it glows with like their heartbeat pulsing normally. And this one's a nut.
I will pull out a bond stone that is also in her.
Ooh.
Yes, I Here they are with these. Well,
Yeah, and it's got the letter L, which would denote that they probably had a name that started with L.
Is the conclusion I'm drawing? It's just that well, they've donated 16 gold to your cause.
I rolled that in the background to see if they would sleight of hand that before they died, and they critted. So
Nice.
Amazing.
Very nice.
I said it to Kristen. It's like,
Yeah.
that's very funny.
Corvus slides the gold over to you, adds the die into the pouch, and is just like holding that pouch. So we're
You're
at
still 9 gold short.
Yep.
And you know for a fact that Lorena doesn't have gold because she doesn't accept
oh yeah,
payment.
absolutely. Like there's no way.
While you work out, I will be right back, but I can still hear.
here, 9 gold. I have 40.
Nice.
That I think was just starting gold.
Well, I feel really bad because I'm never going to be able to pay back any of this.
Oh, it's all right.
This is the first time I've used gold since we were at the town, and even then.
What are the chances that we'll be alive for you to pay us back?
Oh, I guess that's fair.
Well, that's a level of negativity that I don't like from my apprentice. As she like collects the gold up and dumps it into what you all, except for Corvus, kind of just assume is still a pot of stew. But it kind of immediately begins to bubble with this liquid gold. And she finds an acorn, probably swept up into a corner by one of her brooms. Dusts it off a little bit, ties a piece of her hair onto the end of it, and begins a long, arduous process of dunking it to get 200 GBs worth of gold to like adhere to it, which isn't how it works. She doesn't need to do that, but she will make you a gilded acorn that is appropriate for that spell.
I think negativity would be master if I suggested it. Our souls would be permanently evicted from all planes of existence. Death is only really a minor complaint at this point. Really low stakes.
What are you talking about?
Well,
She also looks at you like, why are you like this?
so far, the 2 deaths that we have been exposed to have been substantially worse than death, Bartleman, so I feel like a little bit of a joke about death. It's not that dark of humor, and that my master should give me some grace.
If your soul is out there in the ether and nobody's going to revive you, it's essentially the same thing. Oh, is there a fancy elven afterlife that I'm not privy to?
That does sound like an elven thing to do.
Corvus rolled his eyes so hard when this kind of responds.
No.
It's because, like, no.
Lorena says thank you. Thank you for the information.
How would you know Nisaka would let you in?
Well, actually, Lorena does think that Nisakan is a full elf because of the nature of Nisakan.
Yeah, because of my magic that I have.
Right.
And the glimmer that I have on. Armand Heartful.
Okay.
That was out of game.
Oh.
There's no way
was-
Bob
yeah,
would say
that
that.
was
Frankie comes back to life for 1 second to be like, they wouldn't even let you in. the day passes because Simulacrum takes 12 hours to cast.
Yeah.
So, you can all be doing your whatever you want over the course of the day. In this account, you still don't have a kit to like really look after your armor or weapons. Like,
Yeah.
because the bits are stolen. Food still gets made, but in a way that Corvus, you know, Lorena really doesn't like. It is like all automated, so she doesn't
Mhm.
really do a lot of work for it. But which she is not a fan of. But the day passes, go to sleep. All of your things are cast on you in the morning that last for long enough for that to be relevant, except for Nisaka's 2 bubbles. And she she leads you all out of the hut, and makes it into a chicken, and then casts. It's actually teleport that she casts. And she's been to so many places to the north that she picks like a little grove that is quite close to the town of the Sat Massacre. And you, in the blink of an eye, arrive. It's much, much warmer here. The cold air from the mountain does not flow this way. It's warm, and for the first time in ages, Nisakana, you just feel kind of good, like
Mhm.
temperature-wise. And she looks around and she says, "I believe we are to the east of the town. I will remain around this place. When you have finished your business, you can return if you need assistance." And she kind of doesn't even bring her hut back out. She just looks at you all, expecting you to head off.
Mhm.
But
I'll
we'll
give a bow.
call
Well,
Corvus back to wait a moment.
Thank you.
Oh,
At some point in all that, Archie, he's resummoned Archie because that takes an hour.
sure. Of course, Mothra. It was a pleasure talking to you. I will. You're welcome in my hut anytime.
I'll do the same if I ever have a hut.
Sure. She takes that at face value and is pleased about it. So you all walk off, including the Corvus simulacrum, who is blessedly quiet. And she like stands in front of Corvus, turns back into like what you I think know now to be her true form, which is tall and beautiful and very authoritative. She puts her hands on both of your shoulders and says, "Well, you're a worse apprentice than you were those months ago when I sent you to Oakshire, though not by any real fault of your own. If you die, which I hope you don't, then die knowing that you were apprenticed to Kiriel." And then she like pats you on the cheek slightly fondly and like kind of pushes you away.
Yeah, Corvus kind of like leans into that and thank you, Master, for going to all the trouble.
Yes, yes, I have a, have to do these things for the good of the people. So, what am I going to do? She like waits till you're out of eye shot, and then you kind of hear in the distance behind you her summoning the hut. And you head off, and that is where we will end the session this week. With the party en route to city committed the Sephiroth. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, possibly. Who knows? Definitely not next week. We will not be here next week.
Yeah.
But we will be back for the climactic final episode or two in a couple of weeks. Thank you again for watching us, and we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.